In the Muy Science Fest Madrid, history presents itself as an unstable territory, full of traps and unexpected twists. Santiago Castellanos made it clear that his intervention would not be a typical chronological lesson, but a reflection on power, intrigue, and chance in the fate of an empire. At the center of this talk was a well-known historical figure, Isabella la Católica. Before continuing, if you like this content, do not forget to subscribe and like the video. Your support is essential to continue creating more interesting content about history and other fascinating topics. Castellanos began by dismantling a very deep-rooted idea. Isabel de Castilla was not destined to govern. This statement surprised the public, as it puts us in a very different scenario from that presented in school accounts. Isabel was not a predestined queen, but a figure with very little chance of ascending to the throne. The historian explained that Elizabeth faced several obstacles, such as a reigning king and other heirs with more formal options. Her access to the throne was not a straight path, but the result of a series of contingencies, fragile alliances, and risky decisions that changed the course of history. A central idea of the talk was that history does not advance in a predictable way. Castellanos mentioned that, by observing the past from a distance, it is easy to fall into the illusion that events were predestined. This perception is, in fact, a later construction influenced by historical narratives. Isabella la Católica was the focus of a presentation that explored power, religion, and intrigue at the end of the Middle Ages. Castellanos stressed that the protagonists of the past did not know the outcome of their history. Isabel acted as one more piece on a volatile political board, where each decision could have unexpected consequences. To illustrate this uncertainty, Castellanos used a metaphor. Moving in history is moving in a sea of piranhas. Historical sources are not neutral and are full of interests and deformations. Historians' work is to navigate between them, avoiding simplified readings. The approach of Castellanos was especially relevant when addressing the figure of Isabel. Many of the chronicles we know were written after the rise of her power, which affects the way in which her story is presented. This presentation responds to political needs and not necessarily to the real facts. One of the most interesting moments was when Castellanos analyzed the idea of legitimacy. Isabel had to justify her rise to the throne through symbolic agreements and proclamations. Isabel's proclamation as queen was made before resolving all the succession conflicts, a risky move to gain time and support. Juana's figure, known as the Beltrania, shows how history can be distorted. Doubt about her fatherhood was used as a tool to weaken her legitimacy. Castellanos emphasized that the historian must critically analyze inherited labels rather than accept them without questioning. The talk also addressed the historian's methodology, defending the work based on data rather than intuitions. Castellanos compared documentary sources with laboratory data, stressing that history demands the same rigor as any science. Finally, Castellanos reflected on the current image of Isabel, the result of centuries of reinterpretations. Understanding her figure implies separating the myth from the document and accepting that history is a continuous investigation. The paper made it clear that history was a discipline that works with uncertainty and ambiguity.